All right. So Billy's in the house. We're talking crypto. He's kind of an expert on this. I know him a really long time. I trust his opinion. So, Billy.
Hello.
Quick 30 seconds. Who are you? What do you do?
So my name is Billy. I currently work in fintech, work in a company that is one of the larger in the crypto space, founded by one of the more prevalent crypto figures in the market right now from tech figures. I think that'll give enough people enough information to figure that one out. But been involved with crypto since probably 2014 or so, 2013, somewhere around there. And then just kind of got into all the smart contract stuff and all that fun stuff a little bit more recently.
Awesome. But yeah, you're a trusted opinion to me. That's why I wanted to have you on. I wanted to ask you about crypto. Casual conversation in the last couple of weeks. Multiple people have asked me about NFTs, crypto, what their investments can do. A whole bunch of more than just casual conversation answers are required there. So I wanted to have you on. Thought it would be something, since it's present in a lot of people's minds, maybe I'd have you on and we talk about it.
Sounds good. I'm excited for it.
Okay. So why don't we jump right in? General public, quick history and what you know and what people should know about crypto.
So one of the most common misconceptions about crypto is that's a new phenomenon that came out like within the past 5-10 years with the blow up of Bitcoin and stuff like that. But the idea of cryptocurrency has been around for roughly 30, maybe even 40 years, depending on how you exactly define it. It's always been kind of like more of a thought process than an actual real physical asset in we look at Bitcoin or Ethereum now. So that's a more relatively newer feature, but cryptocurrency as a whole is just kind of what you can imagine as a digital currency, right? It's a digital currency that's, backed by the blockchain and is virtually, decentralized in every way, shape, and form. So that way people can't, and the contracts that run it are immutable. So once you kind of create cryptocurrency, there's no way for someone to kind of uncreate it. It's there forever.
Okay. And it's open. People can see it. They have a full view of the history.
Yeah, so that's one of the fun features about the blockchain is that at blockchain, since it records everything in perpetuity, that you can go back and see everything that's happened at any point in time. Now, whether or not the layperson really needs to go and do that, that's where I think people start to get caught up in the weeds a little too much, but it's certainly possible.
Okay. All right, so, Joe Schmo that can go out and open up a wallet anywhere and start picking up coins. Recommended?
Yeah, I mean, again, so let's go and take a look back at macro a little bit more, because we need to understand that crypto is one of the most volatile assets of any form of investments right now. So I think before anyone starts to go and think about investing in crypto, you need to have a conversation with yourself about your risk tolerance. Obviously, nothing said here is financial advice or anything like that, but
no advice, anecdotes, and education.
We can go and look at crypto over the past, at the end of last year, we were over 60,000 in Bitcoin, and now we're floating around that 42,000 mark, I believe today, somewhere around there. So it's a volatile asset. So, once you have your exposure in stocks, once you have your exposure in, bonds, once you have your exposure in cash, it's all about following that pyramid. And I believe crypto has a spot in everyone's portfolio. It's just a matter of allocations and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. And like anything else, if you're going to be in the market or you're going to be buying an asset, people buy gold, silver, everything on spot. And then the next day something happens, it tanks, you lose money. It's inherent in the system. Yeah. So you have to understand that and accept it.
Yeah. And to circle back to your previous question about going somewhere and opening up a wallet. So, obviously with the boom that crypto has faced over the past few years, there's been a whole bunch of platforms that have made it easier for any person to kind of come in off the street and start investing in crypto. Obviously do your own research. There's lots of good ones out there. There's lots of bad ones out there. I would just say, the biggest thing to remember is if you don't have the keys to your wallet, it's not your crypto, it's the platform's crypto, and it's not, you don't have sole possession of that. So we've seen right now what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, where they can just say, hey, we're pulling out and you don't have access anymore. Well, if you don't have access to that platform, you don't have access to that crypto.
Yeah. Yeah, I have seen that. A lot of them, it's easy to set up, but, it's like buying paper instead of silver.
Yep.
You don't actually own it. You can't make good on it.
Exactly.
So, and then you're worried about who can make good on it, how you get it back. If the company is legit, they'll try and get it to you.
Yeah. And I think we'll see that with the whole global crisis that's going on right now as well. But I also think, this is a true testament to one of the, purists that exist in crypto about, hey, this is a way to prevent government censorship and sanctions and things like that by having a decentralized currency. Well, ultimately, you still need a point where you can translate that to pay your bills. And we're not at that adoption state yet. So you need to change that into your local currency, and that's where a point of failure exists in that whole mentality currently.
Yeah, I do see that coming. I have seen a lot more like Bitcoin ATMs popping up.
Yeah. There was just, I believe it was late last year, there was the first purchase in Florida of a house entirely with Bitcoin.
Entirely with Bitcoin?
Entirely with Bitcoin.
Interesting.
Yeah. Kind of crazy.
See, I always wonder like that, because if you're trading in a commodity like that, you buy a house with it, and okay, whoever accepts it, like, how did that work? So the accepting bank just accepted the coin, and then...
Well, you bought it from a person, right?
They bought it from a person, yeah.
If you have a good and I have a good, and we establish that those two goods are of equal value, then we can trade all we want. Gets a little bit tricky with a house because you have things like titles, but you can sign over a title to whoever you want.
Yeah, that was my line of thinking, that there was always going to be an intermediary there.
Yeah, but we can go down to county clerk, and you can give me your house if you want.
That's true. There's a famous court case about a guy getting drunk and selling his farm and it being upheld, and he sold it just by signing it over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with car titles. Yeah.
Yeah. So be smart, do your homework, know what you're doing, know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Because even using it, you can get yourself in some kind of trouble.
Yeah. No, and it's interesting, right? Because there's, let's use a house as an example. There's all sorts of title fraud that exists out there. There's a reason that title companies exist, to go and check for any, illegitimate liens or anything like that on your property. But if you're buying in Bitcoin, technically once that transaction goes through, it's immutable. It happened. You have the money in your wallet now.
Yeah.
You can't go back and get that money back. So, if you were the person receiving Bitcoin, it kind of limits your fraud vector a little bit, because there's no way for them to take that money back once it's in your wallet.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good thing. I mean, potentially. If you're the one on, the giving side.
Yeah.
Then you gotta...
There's always fraud.
There is always fraud. Be smart, do your homework, vet everything properly, especially in a house.
Yep. For sure.
It always pays to have legal help when you're going through that process. So, I mean, I guess that kind of goes into it. Now people are buying things with cryptocurrencies, and it's becoming, it's top of mind for a lot of people now. So,
yeah, and I think, like we have people like Crypto.com and Coinbase who are trying to go and figure out a way that you can use crypto in an everyday manner by creating these prepaid crypto debit cards or credit cards. And I think that's definitely an avenue for mass adoption. I think, going and looking at what's going on in Miami right now with the mayor down there going and saying, hey, you can pay your taxes with Bitcoin. I think that's huge.
That is.
I think, the president of El Salvador, issuing these Bitcoin bonds to the people there. I think there's a lot of interesting use cases that are coming up across the world. And I think, the whole decentralized application aspect of things is going to open up even more. Like, we're only talking about Bitcoin right now. And yeah, that's a big dog on top right now, but I think that's ripe for disruption. So.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I see Bitcoin more as like the store of value one. Like, that's the one you're going to buy and, hope for the equity in it.
Well, so again, I think it's only as, I don't like the argument for store of value, because a store of value only exists if people agree it's a store of value, right?
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't have intrinsic value.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So like when you go and think about the US dollar, what makes a strong US dollar is utility. Not about and the utility is what brings its strength against other currencies, which makes it a good store of value.
Yeah.
But the utility in itself, being able to go and say we're the global currency, and if you want to go and do trades internationally, people price things in US dollars.
Well, that was just Saudi Arabia and China were just agreeing to take the yuan.
Yep. So, when we go and look at Bitcoin right now, that's where Bitcoin is people everyone recognizes that, regardless of whether or not you're invested in cryptocurrency, you understand what Bitcoin is, at least on the surface level. You're like, hey, this is a cryptocurrency. That's what this is. So it's a lot easier for people who are, slightly more in the know-how to go and be like, hey, I'm willing to accept this as an exchange of goods. Whereas, you have things like Ethereum, Avalanche, Anchor, Solana, all these other cryptocurrencies and these other blockchains are kind of rising up and bringing actual utility with them. And I think that's going to change the game, and I think that's going to be a larger store of value. I think, going and looking at Bitcoin as a store of value currently is going and saying Ethereum's like the entire stock market.
Okay, fair enough.
And so, yeah, the companies within the stock market might not be worth a lot right now, but you got to give them time to grow, and eventually they're going to be worth more than any single dollar.
Yeah. In your opinion, is it something now or maybe wait a while for everybody to start buying in?
Not financial advice. Do your own research before investing. But I definitely think there's the best time to invest in anything is 10 years ago, and second best time is today.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I think you should always dollar cost average according to your risk tolerance and things like that. I do think there's a lot more risk prevalent in the cryptocurrency environment than, say, the stock market or something like that. I would treat it akin to trading penny stocks at this point in the game. There's some that you're going to make outrageous gains on, and some you're going to lose a lot of money on. So it just matters, what exactly you're investing into.
So basic answer is, and this is something that you probably hear all over, there is no blanket. Do your homework and figure out if it's for you.
Yeah, and I would go and say, like, if you have a financial advisor, talk to them. Let them know you're interested in it. There's all sorts of new financial products like trusts and ETFs and things like that. They're tracking cryptocurrency. They're a great way to build some exposure into your portfolio without dealing with the whole tech side of having a wallet and cold storage and all that kind of stuff. You can get exposure without too much of a headache.
I heard on the radio there's a trust that started up that's they're figuring out how to incorporate it into IRAs.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of all these companies that previously were kind of advertising self-directed IRAs for house flippers are now getting into kind of dedicating themselves to advertising their self-directed IRAs for crypto. I think the big thing that people need to understand there is all it is a self-directed IRA. There's nothing special about crypto IRA. All it is self-directed, and you can invest whatever you want in your self-directed IRA. You could go and invest in art. You could invest in jewelry, but I would be a lot more hesitant about that one. If that's money you're depending on in retirement, you probably want to make sure you save some of it.
That's where talking to your financial professional comes in.
Yep, for sure.
Okay. So the Ethereum that you were talking about, I've been hearing a lot of level 2 coming in, and I have no idea what it is.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and assume you're talking about layer 2s.
Oh, okay. See, there you go.
So there's a couple things. There's Ethereum 2.0, and then there's layer 2 blockchains.
Okay.
So one of the intrinsic problems with blockchains right now is the number of transactions that they can process per second, right? So Visa always claims that they can process roughly 300,000 transactions per second. The native Bitcoin blockchain can it's something like 10,000 transactions per second. That after all these upgrades like Taproot and stuff like that have come out recently that have made it more efficient than it's ever been. So the theory is, how do you get more transactions? How do we compete with Visa to truly make this a thing we can do everyday business on? And that's where layer 2s come in. So layer 2 essentially is a blockchain on a blockchain. So rather than one transaction, so I pay you $10 in Bitcoin, that's one transaction on the blockchain in Bitcoin, on the Bitcoin blockchain, and that's one of that 10,000 they can do per second. But if I do it on a layer 2 protocol, let's go and say each one of those can do 10,000 transactions per second, and then they go and write that 10,000 block as one transaction to the Bitcoin blockchain, and now you can go and fit 10,000 times 10,000, whatever number that is. It's almost exponential when you get to a layer 2.
Right.
has its ups and downs there, because technically it's going to take a little bit longer because you have to wait for that block to be completed to go and then record it in another block, and then you have to wait for that one to be completed. There's also, more points of failures that can exist with, like some more of the technical things with people disagreeing on validation, stuff like that. But that's one half of things. And then there's Ethereum 2.0. So Ethereum 2.0 is trying to solve a lot of the problems that Ethereum currently has in its current iteration. So one of the more popular upgrades that is on the roadmap to Ethereum 2.0 was a London hard fork that came out relatively recently, which started burning more Ethereum, so thus decreasing supply, increasing the price, because demand stays consistent, supply decreases, you're going to have an increasing price. But essentially, the Ethereum team is trying to come up with some more elegant solutions beyond layer 2s to solve some of Ethereum's transaction per second issues. Things like, sharding and going and having it a little bit more decentralized and things like that. We'll see what actually comes out. It's kind of a joke in the cryptocurrency community, this Ethereum 2.0, because we've been talking about for 5 years, 6 years now. So it's coming.
Yeah.
And we'll see what it's like when it gets here. But depending on which way you want to take that question, there's both answers for you.
Fair enough. I mean, 5 years, you say that like it's a long time. But, I mean, how long did it take us to get to high-frequency trading and, electronic funds transfers? And
listen, I'll go and say I'm a degen when it comes to investing in crypto, and we always go and talk about that 2 days feels like 2 years in crypto. Things move fast, and you got to move fast. And when we have, so a lot of these other blockchains are popping up to compete with Ethereum, things like Avalanche, Solana, Phantom, just to name a few. And having these come up and start competing with them, a lot of people feel like Ethereum's lost its edge. And unless they can get to 2.0 quicker, then these other blockchains are going to gather mass adoption and get to a point where they kind of tip the scale there and might overtake Ethereum.
That's pretty interesting. All right. So, yeah, decentralization and centralization and how they're kind of meeting in a common marketplace now.
Yeah. So, you can still do transactions without centralization. I can go and send you whichever cryptocurrency I want to send to you without just having your wallet address. The problem lies in on-ramps and off-ramps, right? Turning crypto to fiat. And that's where the centralization usually tends to happen. And that's where the biggest, kind of chokehold is. And that's where, most governments are trying to regulate currently.
Yeah, they're having a tough time with that.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems like Janet Yellen is... I know nothing, but I know every time that the Fed opens their mouth about it, I should just not listen to that and then start diving deeper.
Yeah, so I was deep diving for my YouTube channel the executive order and going over that one, and really with the executive order, it was actually good news, like for the crypto market as a whole. Like, I think some level of regulation is good because it removes a lot of the fear and Ponzi schemes and rug pulls that exist right now. Where we walk that fine line is once we get things like the AML and CFT coming in, where we're going and doing it for, homeland security, but really we're monitoring people's transactions and having too much investigation into people's, wealth without due process.
Yeah, and I kind of run that one with a simple litmus. Are you setting the rules of the sandbox? Or are you judging how it's played inside?
Yeah, exactly. So, but they did talk about one of the big things that I really liked out of the executive order was, they want to bring U.S. competitiveness back, which I think is huge because a way to be competitive is less legislation, not more.
Yeah, you could be faster.
And then you can bring in all these big crypto companies that have all gone overseas and bring them here to the U.S. I think it'd be a smart play. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are pulling out of China because of, what was it, COPPA? They made a whole bunch of commitments on energy. And crypto mining does consume a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Now, you got to make the argument, is it worth it for that? Is there a way to make that cleaner? And actually, Ted Cruz had a good argument for that.
I missed it.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah.
It was a couple months ago. So Ted Cruz, he's talking with a company. I don't know what crypto company, but they're trying to set up these trailers that hook up to the oil derricks. And the natural gas that they draw off them when they're trying to get a new well, they can't use it.
Mm-hmm. I do want to just say that crypto mining does not use that much energy in comparison to everything else.
I didn't think it did.
Like, it does for what it is. If you want to go and compare that with like people's home computing powers, yeah, it uses a lot of energy. If you want to compare that to, Coca-Cola or, any mining company out there, no, doesn't even compete. Like these huge companies use way more energy, create way more pollution, but we aren't talking about the same level of, hey, they're destroying the environment.
Yeah, it's look at the problem over here, don't look at the one over there that's existed.
Yeah. So, and I do think what, again, speaking of the executive order, one of the things they did talk about is energy and investing in renewable energy sources. I think that's another avenue we could really, drive down on if we can get these, like the tide wave generators going for some crypto stuff. That'd be huge. Some wind turbines, solar panels, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nothing should be off the table. I was talking with somebody going over the efficiency because they were spouting off about solar being the future. And yeah, that is part of the future. That's not the whole future.
Yeah. I think there's way too many different sources that we can generate energy from to get trapped into one particular avenue.
Yeah. Anybody who's going to oversimplify anything and try to sum it up and demonize it or make it godsend, that's a snake oil salesman.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless you have a guy, and you have to have a guy or a lady or whoever that you really trust as an advisor of some sort. You can't just broad stroke anything or just, accept it for what it is. Plain face value doesn't exist anymore to me.
Listen, there's a reason I always say not financial advice, do your own research. Because if you don't do your own research, then you're just taking someone else's word for it, which you can't do.
Yeah, no. You could go down so many rabbit holes, waste so much money.
Everyone's trying to sell you.
All right, anyway, back to the subject. Let's talk a little bit about NFTs.
Sure.
So now, my absolute novice coming across this with just in an article, it looks to me like NFTs, non-fungible tokens, are something where you can IP, art, music, other things like that.
Yeah, so let's back up for a second. What exactly is an NFT, right? So what makes an NFT different than something else? And that's a non-fungible token versus a fungible token. So think about Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever other cryptocurrency you want as a fungible token. Whether you have the first Bitcoin ever minted or the 10,000th Bitcoin ever minted, it's worth the same. It's one Bitcoin. They're interchangeable for each other. Even though you might be able to track that first Bitcoin through all the wallets it went to, it's still the same exact Bitcoin as the 10,000th Bitcoin. A non-fungible token means that each one is unique. So it's funny because the way I actually explained it to my girlfriend is explaining it like some cured meats. Right. So let's go and say you have some salami, you have some pepperoni, and whatever other cured meats you want, and they're all laid out on a platter in front of you. And you look at them, and they're all cured meats, right? And they're all, let's be honest, relatively taste the same, roughly. They might have a little bit differentiation here and there, but each one is unique, right? Each one is its own cured meat. That's kind of how NFTs work. Each one is going to be unique, even though it might be virtually identical to something else. It might have all the same attributes. Because it has its own unique identifier on the blockchain, it makes it completely unique, which makes it great for things like you said, IP like art, music, or other things like that. But it also opens up some other utility that I think we're still exploring on what that exactly means. Things like connecting, musicians to their fan base. You go and buy this, you have this unique token of my album. Well, guess what? I'm going to fly you out for my opening concert, right?
Interesting.
Another way is loyalty, memberships, right? You have to have this unique token on your wallet in order to get access to this club.
Okay, I could see this. Yeah, and I didn't think about it that way either.
Yeah, so I think what the most important thing to remember about NFTs is their unique identifier, right? And now that might be for art. And it's a great use in art because most one-offs, right? How do you replicate a one-off in the crypto space or online space? That's where the joke comes from about people. I'll just hit right-click and save.
I was going to bring that up. And so just from my limited legal knowledge and what I know, I could just screenshot it, whatever. Yeah, okay. But then if you go and try to profit off of that and you don't have the correct licensure behind it, you could be liable.
Could be. Well, but it's also the people who are investing in this are investing in the image. They're investing in the unique idea on the blockchain.
I see.
So, you can go and save it all you want. You still don't have that unique identifier on your wallet.
So it's the metadata beyond it too.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's not just, say, that image, what's a popular one now, the apes?
Yeah, the Bored Apes just launched their coin. I think it was Friday, Thursday, something like that.
I think I got an email about that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I signed up for newsletters, trying to learn. Not that I know anything about it, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of really interesting use cases, and I think NFT is the reason it blew up so much in popularity is it started bringing crypto to the mainstream. It wasn't just for nerds anymore. Now we have musicians and artists and digital content creators all kind of bridging that gap with NFTs, and not to mention a lot of people made a bunch of money really quick. Snoop Dogg's really interesting because he's been pushing the music avenue with NFTs and bringing his entire record into the metaverse space and hosting concerts in the metaverse and things like that. I think whoever's on Snoop's team to keep him up to date with what's going on in the world, like that person needs a raise because he's all over that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, he's always been kind of like finger on the pulse.
No, for sure.
What is it? The weed magazines that he's been into.
Yeah.
He's had strains of his own.
Listen, entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike Tyson just came out with my favorite cannabis gummies ever. Did you see them?
Nah.
Oh my God, they're called Mike Bites. And it looks like Evander Holyfield's ear, and it's got a bite taken out of it.
That's so good.
Oh man, I almost peed myself. I thought it was a joke, and no, it's real.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, the real utility when I first started reading about it was, music and what you could do with that. So you're putting your album out, and this is the broad stroke cursory. I don't know who was talking about it. Probably like a SoundCloud rapper on YouTube that was talking about it as a way for him to distribute his music without having to get anybody else involved.
Yeah, there's definitely avenues there. I think there's also avenues. One of the most interesting ones that someone brought up to me the other day is for logistics.
Really?
So let's go and imagine I want to run a farm-to-table restaurant, and I go and start the NFT is created when whatever ingredient is coming from that farm is packaged up or harvested or however you want to go and say that. As soon as it comes out, it gets serialized. You can track it on the blockchain. It has to be registered into each wallet of each point as it comes to you. And then when you go and order that at the table, you get that blockchain, that NFT sent to you. And now you possess that forever as your meal memory.
Yeah, so you can do... Okay, so back in like 2004, this is a crazy story, but this could lead into it because this was performance art. There was a Japanese transgender artist that went through transition surgery, had his male genitalia severed, and then it was shaved very thinly like you would a truffle, and it was served at this really like Michelin star top of the line restaurant, and everybody who went there had pictures, and it was this whole big thing, and they ate it, special permit to eat human flesh. It was invite only, and it was some crazy amount of money, to even attend. So even if you got the invitation, you were still paying to go.
Yeah.
And I think seats were like 20,000 each. Now, NFTs were around. You have that forever.
Yeah.
Much as that's a horrifying story to a degree.
Yeah, but I think it does open up a really interesting, use cases. Like imagine something like the voting system, right? You go and mark your vote into an NFT. So that way we don't need to ever have this conversation about voting machines ever again. You can go and look on the blockchain. You can go and say, hey, this was signed by this wallet, which represents me, and it says I voted for this person. Boom, there's the NFT. I signed it.
Yeah, you might wind up with a social security number and a wallet number.
Yeah.
Or more than one, depending on what's going on.
Exactly.
There's a couple other countries that I think Venezuela, Germany, Sweden, Norway, they moved to a... It's an internet-based voting system. So there's like a check-in that they have on their phone where they go check in. In Venezuela, it was strictly on the phone. You didn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And they reported 98% accuracy.
Listen, I would never claim to be the smartest person in the room, but I think there's a lot of smart people. There's a lot of smart people out there in the world that are thinking of different use cases for this stuff, and I really think we've hit the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think people in their normal everyday lives kind of feel like they're this is the pinnacle of technology and what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And at best, you might be able to make an argument that it's a plateau.
Plateau's an interesting word there. I think our rate of incline might be different.
But as far as industry and where that expansion goes, and new technologies being created that revolutionize things, like our last one was glass. And there was a strong argument that we transitioned in like the mid-2000s from the information age to the glass age, because we started storing things on glass.
Did the capacitor come afterwards? Because I always hear that like was like the revolution. Like
maybe.
Like when we created the capacitor, is just like now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What? It was the microchip and capacitor. Microchip first. Microchip is what, 40? 41?
I don't know.
Oh God, why can't I remember the scientist's name? He's the one who broke the code in the UK, the gay one that they pretty much tortured for his entire life.
Don't know.
I will put it in later. He deserves a shout out because, oh my God, Alan Turing?
Yeah. The Turing test?
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I'm pretty sure. I will double check. Yeah, he's responsible for the current age that we're in. Complete and utter genius. Unfathomably smart. But yeah, now there's some simple circuitry that it's embedded in glass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's laser etched. Yeah.
Whole circuit board thing.
Yep. The contacts, people are going to have those contacts. You can actually buy the glasses. The contacts are supposed to be coming out. They're a prototype, but there's Bluetooth integration. So
that's crazy.
I don't know. I heard of things like Elon Musk is a proponent of this, especially with Neuralink. Because
Elon wants your brain.
Well, he just tweeted out again, if you can't beat him, join him. And everybody's like, what the hell is he talking about? And people are like, no, he's talking about AI. But yeah, Neuralink is coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts picking up the contacts and the glasses for like a reality 1.5.
Do you remember the Snap lenses or whatever they were?
Yeah.
Or Google Glass or whatever? Yep. Like all
They're
those.
still around.
Yeah, but like society doesn't want that. I think that's what these companies need to realize is we have the technology to make them. It's just we don't want them. We think they're dumb. Don't stop building them.
I do think there's a place, but I think I am a traditionalist type of person. Like I'll go out in the woods, let's make fires, s'mores, you go fishing. Okay. Same thing.
Yep.
So there are people who are they're different. They are, well, my one friend Keith is like this, cyber goth. They want to diverge from that. So they're going to be the ones that embrace, he currently has, implants in his forearm.
I was just about to say, listen, if you want to go and implant some RFID chips in your arms or your hands or whatever's going on, be my guest.
Mm-hmm.
But for a mass appeal successful product launch, you need to recognize that we don't want these stupid glasses. Stop making them.
Fair enough. I agree with you. And one of their big marketing things was like you walk by, this alley and there's no signs, but you put the glasses on and this is a 5-star restaurant. And it's,
what? Maybe there's a market in China with social scores.
Maybe.
They might be onto something here. I retract my previous statement.
I don't know. That goes beyond me too. I have enough trouble keeping track of my own credit score. No, it is something that you have to think about because, well, look at TikTok. So TikTok right now they might be getting in trouble because they are help proliferate and spread multiple personalities disorder. It's not in a real sense, but there's a real push for all of a sudden now people who never had mental health issues are neurodivergent or, multiple personalities, they're schizophrenic, and maybe they had some underlying issues.
Listen, I think that we all need to recognize that social media causes people to do things
they wouldn't otherwise.
Things they wouldn't otherwise, and seek out attention by acting out, and whatever the latest craze is of acting out. Kids are going to do it. Kids are dumb. We were dumb kids.
Yeah, we're.
Yeah, but I don't like. since I don't like censorship of a platform based off of the actions of the few.
No, I don't think the call is for censorship. I think it's more of a rationale.
Yeah, but I like this is going to be my libertarian point of view, but even when they had to go and put on that like seizure warning for the one filter because of the flashing lights.
Oh yeah,
it's just like, listen, like that's not their responsibility to make sure that you don't go and view flashing lights.
Yeah, I mean, that's another legal issue that we could get into at another time, but strict liability law, the way it runs in the United States, I take great issue with many things in it. Because, again, somebody wasn't wearing a seatbelt and they get into a car accident. Is the automaker liable?
Yeah.
Does that case have standing?
Do guns kill people?
You can hold a gun manufacturer liable, but you can't hold a alcohol manufacturer liable. You can hold, in New Jersey at least, you can hold the bar liable. Whether or not that's going to stick is up in the air. But to what point is it unreasonable for me to tell you, as the provider of a toaster, a travel toaster, a widget, and anything, that you probably shouldn't, operate it in a bathtub while it's plugged into a wall?
Why should everyone just go and visit Don't Stick Your Dick in That before using anything?
Yeah, I forgot that was the thing. I mean, listen, if it contributes to furthering evolution and some good old-fashioned Darwin, I'm for it. But, I mean, it sounds like we're dancing around a point. But again, this does tie into, who's going to get involved? Are you going to be the idiot that gets involved stupidly, or are you going to be the educated person that wades in the water?
And I think the same people who history deems that way are going to take the same exact risks. And it's just like a war. There's going to be winners and losers, but that doesn't mean both of them were wrong.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see a lot of that in the cryptosphere, and a lot of that in NFTs, and a lot of that in, just decentralized finance as a whole, where we're going to see people who make very heavy bets and spend their lives on certain projects. And not every one of them are going to win. Some of them are going to be losers and lose everything. And it sucks, but that's just when you're on the cutting edge of technology. That's kind of the way things go.
Yeah. Oh, God. Bernie Madoff. So, again, winners and losers. Bernie Madoff didn't make any promises that, Joe Schmo investing was going to get any sort of return on the investment. It's volatile. He had disclosures. I mean, he was shady about it. Yeah. But, buyer beware. The fact that they painted him, he took this 89-year-old woman's retirement, all her money, that, yes and no.
Can I go on a tirade real quick about...
Go ahead.
So, there's been an uptick of everyone calling cryptocurrencies Ponzi schemes. I think people need to understand what a Ponzi scheme is and how you're defining it. This is like going and saying that you're investing in something and expecting to go and get more money out at a later time does not make that a Ponzi scheme. There has to be no underlying value for it to be considered truly a Ponzi scheme. That money has to not be doing something.
I mean, principally what he was doing was taking money from everyone and giving it to the enlightened circle of who he wanted to.
Which is a classic Ponzi scheme, right? So when you go and invest in a stock, it's not a Ponzi scheme because that company's going and using the assets that they're generating. They're a business, right? They're building products, shipping them out, all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, you're basically funding their ability to do R&D, operate, whatever.
When you go and take money out of the ATM, that those dollars that you have, that dollar is not a Ponzi scheme because that dollar is backed by taxation of the U.S. government, all that kind of fun stuff. When you're investing in Bitcoin, it's not a Ponzi scheme because of the underlying transactions within the blockchain. You're buying a piece, a timestamp of that blockchain, thus making it not a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
Now, I know that for the folks out there who don't realize that assets are more than something that you can hold in your hand, that's a little bit difficult, but by definition, it's not a Ponzi scheme.
I mean, by that reductive definition, you'd have to call every mutual company.
Every single currency?
Yeah.
Like everything.
Every fiat currency. Yeah, nobody's on the gold standard anymore.
No.
So, no, I don't agree with that.
Maybe Russia will be after the war's over.
Maybe. I don't know what they have in reserves.
They'll be on the uranium currency.
That's a real thing. People are buying uranium.
I'm sure they are.
They are. They're buying storage. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully they don't know how to refine it, but...
So I don't know what's involved in this, but I do remember that if you, if you want to buy uranium, plutonium, whatever, up to a certain concentration.
Well, they have those bottles, like the uranium bottles, yeah.
Yep, but let's say you're doing an experiment with it, or you're an independent scientist of some sort, and you're going to experiment with cold fusion, and you need material.
Mm-hmm.
There's a permit process for that, but you can get it.
Yeah, why not? Someone's got it.
I mean, especially if you're going to do it, I think there's even a grant process.
I'm sure there is.
So let's tie it all back together. If I'm understanding you correctly, what you're not saying is everyone go out and buy everything that says, no, don't do that.
No, so I think my order of operations would be to understand your risk tolerance. That'd be first step. Second step would be go in and determine how, based off of your risk tolerance, how much you're willing to advise. And then third, researching tokens and understand what they mean and kind of value that they hold.
Yeah.
Every day there's thousands of new tokens created. There's all sorts of decentralized applications. Decentralized finance is its own space. There's dozens of blockchains that exist out there. You can always go and buy something like Bitcoin and hope it stays as you so put earlier a store value. You could do that. You could invest in something like Ethereum, which is sitting at the second market cap, hoping to get more of a broad market decentralized finance token that's hopefully going to become deflationary. Or you can go into things that are down into the 40 or 50 by market cap and start looking at some more niche like metaverse plays or things like that.
Yeah, that's another one we didn't touch on. It seems like it's a whole other conversation.
We scratched the surface on crypto, but there's a whole lot to do out there. So I would go and say that you're never wrong in investing in the top couple market caps, but there's a lot more to learn once you dig a little bit deeper.
Okay. So on that, education-wise, where do you recommend people go?
I would go and say it depends on exactly what you're trying to learn, but I would go and say that all the crypto information I've learned has come from YouTube. From pulling different sources. I think that's where you can learn a lot coming straight from developers. Coin Bureau puts out a lot of good information out there. I would go and say all the centralized exchanges like Binance, Coinbase, Crypto.com, they all have some good educational resources out there. But definitely stay away from more of the mainstream news outlets like your Fox News, MSN, CBC.
Yeah.
All of them. They have something to gain of keeping money out of crypto. So definitely look for some crypto focus. They're going to have a tilt, but they're going to at least give you more exposure to what the actual market looks like.
Okay. And then if people want to find you.
So I run a YouTube channel, Average Crypto Investor on YouTube and on Twitter, I believe. What am I on Twitter?
You're going to send it to me anyway. So even if you can't remember it.
It's Average Crypto Invest. So AVGCRYPTOINVEST on Twitter as well. That's where you can find me.
Okay.
Two most popular spots.
All right. And I'll have everything like that down in the show notes. It'll be in the teaser that I put out before this. And it'll be in like the 2 or 3 social media posts I put up before it and a locals article.
Cool.
All right.
Sounds good. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in, Billy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No, it was a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's an excuse to see you because I haven't in a while.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah, I like it.
Plus, you're an expert in the field.
Expert.
Well, you're a lot more educated than I am.
And there's a lot more educated out there. Always bigger fish, right?
Always. And that's where it starts. Having a simple conversation with somebody who knows more than you do. Or if you don't have anybody, go find it.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it.
Thank you.